Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to episode Lucky 13 of So What Now at TV. And I'm really excited to be here tonight and bring on one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Laz. Everyone knows Laz. Who doesn't know Laz? Trainer for Tony Robbins, one of my dearest friends, amazing coach and breath worker. And we're going to kind of get into belief systems and what holds us back and how we self-sabotage ourselves, and just kind of dive deep into what are the next steps once you have a breakthrough, and what are the next steps once you realize you have a limiting belief, and how do you permanently, or at least effectively, move through life continuing to overcome those things. So without further ado, we'll bring in Laz. Woo, the crowd goes wild. Oh. So how is it down in Colombia? Cheers, by the way. We decided to drink wine tonight. Cheers. You got to go this way. This way. No, the other way. Clink. It's all backwards. So how are you guys doing down there?
How is life in Colombia? Colombia is really interesting. It's been very, so we're in a real lockdown.
You've got a person right over your shoulder. It's kind of funny. It's like he's sitting on your shoulder. Do you see that? There you go. There's Tony. Tony Rodriguez is here.
Hey, Tony, why don't you get up and grow? Anyway, yeah, Tony Rodriguez, get up and grow. Go check him out. Great stuff. Okay, so Colombia, we are actually in a lockdown. You in America think that you're in a lockdown, but you are actually in some restrictions about work, and you're in some restrictions about or some guidelines of social distancing and stuff like that. In Colombia, we're in lockdown. I am allowed to leave my apartment 2 days a week based upon the last digit of my ID.
Wow.
So, that goes zeros and ones go out one day, and twos and threes get to go out the next day, and fours and five the next day. I'm a 7, so I get to go out. So literally, I'm going out legally 2 days a week.
So there's no walking. Can you walk? I can
walk the dog.
You walk the dog. Can you exercise?
I can walk the dog. They just actually today, since was the first time since March 20th that we are allowed out between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. for exercise.
Wow.
Other than that, we've only been, and construction workers and some manufacturers have just opened today. But since March 20th, that's the first time that people have been allowed back to work, except for, grocery stores and stuff like that, and delivery people. But yeah, as me, a person, I was only allowed out with the dog for 20 minutes or on my days, my 2 days a week to do my grocery shopping or banking or
are there groceries all available? Are there shortages?
There's no shortages at all.
Okay.
Everything is great. Most things can be delivered. We just go to the grocery store to get, because sometimes you want to go out.
You want to get the hell out of the house.
And if I'm in a taxi, I could probably go in a taxi somewhere.
There's taxis actually taking people around?
Oh, yeah. No, the taxis are working. But if I'm in my own car and driving around, they'll pull me over and ask where I'm going and ask for proof. People have been ticketed for being out when it's not their right day. To leave the city of Medellin, I'm in Medellin, Colombia, which is in a valley in the Andes, and all the roads out end up being toll roads at some point, not too far from the edge of the city limit. You're going to run into a toll booth and have to pay a toll, or only maybe coming into town but not leaving. But anyway, there's a toll booth, and all the toll booths now are staffed by police. And you better have a fucking. Ooh, can I swear on this?
You can say fuck, yeah.
Oh, thank God. You better have a fucking good reason and a piece of paper justifying your reason, or they will take your car.
Wow.
The airports have been closed pretty much since March 20th, all airports. So there's no even domestic travel. There's certainly no international travel. So I can't leave Medellin, and I have not been able to leave Medellin since March 20th. currently scheduled for May 11th, and who knows what.
Where were you supposed to go May 11th?
Well, that's when the current
they open up.
restrictions. But what he's done is he extends it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then the Monday before the week of the last week, he extends it. And it's fine. I mean, I understand. I'm not saying that it's a bad decision. But when I see my fellow American countrymen with their guns on the Capitol steps and no masks and their American flags and other flags of some potential candidate for president,
okay, let's not get too political here, Lass.
Demanding that this restriction end, because it's okay if grandma and some other people die, but I need my greenbacks. So anyway, it's a little different here, and Colombia is a little bit of a police state. I mean, they had 50 years of civil war, and so police and military with guns, people pay attention. So we're getting to the point that people are getting antsy also.
Excuse me.
God bless you, woman.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad that you're safe, and I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah. But no shortages, no panic buying. None of that happened.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get into what we were talking about a little bit before we came on, and one of the things that you work really well with, I mean, you're an amazing coach. You've been so helpful for me on many occasions, and I appreciate you for that. And I think one of the things I think was really interesting is what you were talking about, like the, what did you say, the personal lie?
Yeah. Yeah. So
talk a little bit about how that works and what you mean by that.
Yeah. So a lot of this was established by a man, I always want to give credit, by a man by the name of Leonard Orr, who was founded the rebirthing movement in the 70s. And so I did trainings with him for a number of years, from like 2008 until recently, 2018, before I moved to Colombia. So a personal lie is a belief that we hold about ourselves, and it's a core belief about ourselves, and it is an incredibly disempowering belief. And we play with it it's a personal law. So this is a law of mine. This is like my core belief, but because it's disempowering, it's actually a lie. It's not true. It's like the furthest thing you could get from, I am a person of God. I am here to spread love and to accept love from others. And, this is where I, can light sparklers and play with the fairies in the forest. But I do play with fairies in the forest, but that's a whole other story.
That's a whole other show.
Okay, so here's the way the beliefs get started. And for those of us who have been through Robbins, we know this through Leadership Academy. If you've been to the Leadership Academy, that a belief is a thought that we had, and we're like, and then like, wow, did mom looked at me weird, for example. Mom looked at me weird and gave me a bad look. Is there something wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me because I was just doing my normal thing and I got a dirty look from mom. So, what could that mean? Because we want to give something meaning. And then we think, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. And then we start looking around for evidence that there's something wrong with me. And it could be, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I don't belong on the planet. I mean, these are they sound really strong, but we all pretty much have them at some level. And we all pretty much got them at some level, right? So a belief is created by a passing thought that then we look for evidence that it could be true. So then we're like, oh my gosh, that person looked at me weird also, or my friend didn't invite me to her birthday party, or that guy broke up with me he ghosted me. We say that now. I just got ghosted. So there must be something really fundamentally wrong with me. And this is all done on the subconscious level. I mean, we don't actually have these wondering thoughts while we're sitting there, certainly not as children, but the process goes on in the background. And the more evidence we have that we've gathered, then it becomes a belief. And a collection of beliefs is an identity. The beliefs that we hold about ourselves are what our identity is our I am statement. And as Tony says, the strongest force in human nature is to remain consistent with the identity that we've established for ourselves. And our identity is nothing other than a collection of beliefs that we have proved to ourselves are true. So when people say, oh, I have a stumbling block, why do I always get stuck? Why do I always get really close to success and then I sabotage myself? What's that about? Why am I sabotaging myself consistently, whether it's in relationships or in work or intimate relationships or even friendships, right? And what I say is that the reason that you're sabotaging yourself is because your personal lie, that belief of I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to be alive, I don't deserve to be loved, I don't deserve to be successful because there's something fundamentally wrong with me, that is still running in the background. And we're not aware of it until we go through a process, there's a lot of different processes. I've come up with a process myself of working one-on-one with people to really uncover what that lie is and what that belief is that's not true. And sometimes people get so stuck and they just can't see it. They say, well, because we talk about what must somebody feel about themselves if X, Y, Z are true. And they get stuck and I'm like, well, okay, let's not talk about you anymore. What about somebody else? What about your friend Betty? If Betty had this belief, what else must she believe to be true? Because sometimes we can't even, it's so hard, it's so painful.
Lay down. Lay down.
Okay.
Not you.
Oh.
Cody, go lay down. He's sabotaging me.
Either am I. So, because I've seen Jason with an axe, ain't no way I'm touching you. Okay, so we have to uncover what that, in order, if you really want to stop sabotaging yourself or stop wondering why you can't make a decision or wondering what that block is, that there's the block, but you just don't know why it's happening. Right. Then you've gotta uncover what that belief is, and Tony in UPW does an amazing job of taking people through, this, the 2 days, 2.5 days at UPW first, and then finally gets you to pick one of these beliefs that you've been, working on and talking with people and sharing with other participants, and then using the pain and pleasure process to really find the costs of that. And what do you want to believe instead, right? Because oftentimes, I want to believe I'm totally lovable. I belong on the planet. I'm totally more than enough. This is what we all want to believe about ourselves. And some of us on some level do, but on that unconscious child level, it still pops up, right?
Well, I think, one of the belief that kind of got to me is like, what if they don't like me?
What if they don't like me?
What if they don't like me?
Well, there's a deeper belief behind that, because that's the consequence of them not liking you.
Yeah, well, that I'm not good enough, and then I won't be loved, and it goes nowhere but there.
That you're not likable. There's just something. If people really, really knew you, they wouldn't like you.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
And so then what we were talking about before we got on live was, well, what do you do after that, right? And if people have been through the Dickens process at UPW, Tony, like go to another program, continue working on yourself, read stuff, get a coach. There's options like that in the Robbins community. And what I help people do is I say two things. I say, number one, that it's going to take a lot of rewiring for that belief to go away. It's not just going to magically disappear because you had, a transformational experience, because you had the awareness. And that's so frustrating for people is, oh my God, I saw it. I saw the truth. And it's 2 months later and now I'm not there. I haven't.
Well, and I tell people too, like the belief that I'm not good enough and I won't be loved is not gone from me. It's not that I don't have, like moments of that.
Yeah.
But I also have other bigger beliefs that,
well, that's what happened.
You know what I'm saying? I have counter beliefs that are stronger than that I've built the muscle of,
You
right?
build the
So I have the I'm not good enough over here, but I also have the I'm way good enough over here.
Yeah.
So I think that what is the misnomer is that your fears go away, your limitations go away.
You've had a transformation, and you're not the same person anymore, and you're new.
No, folks, you're not new. You just have an awareness. Yes.
You have a new awareness. But here's the trick. So what you
what is it? Ignorance is bliss sometimes, because once you know that you're like, now that you're aware that, oh my gosh, I can change this, or I don't have to think like this, or I am like, then you're not satisfied in that like this space that we get into where we kind of feel sorry for ourselves. Like that, oh, I can't stay here. I need to get out of this. Sometimes it's very frustrating for people. Like they found pleasure in the misery.
Oh, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother, right? Because then we're just talking about, then you just jump to human needs, right? And so we're actually staying in the misery because it meets our one of our 6 human needs, or 3 or 4 of, I'm certain that, I know this pattern. So let me go back to the familiar, because even though it's terrible, it's like, why do people smoke? When they know that when they really, really want to quit, and they know that it's not good for them and all this stuff, but they still smoke because they haven't found something else to replace to meet those 6 human needs at a higher level than what the cigarettes do. Right.
Well, and I would say like the person that was sabotaging relationships, or sabotaging myself in relationships, that girl is still here.
Right.
But I have an awareness that is not okay, and that that's not going to serve me anymore, and it's not going to ultimately get me my outcome.
Yeah, but I'm going to go even further. Absolutely.
Please.
But that's an intellectual process.
Yeah.
Where that I'm still fucked up in relationships is in your heart. It's not, right? So, and you can overrule when that heart shows up and you feel that tightness in your heart about, oh, I'm going to screw this relationship up. Then you've worked enough with your head to have battle between your head and your heart, and your head wins because you've been practicing this long enough.
Well, let me ask this question, because I feel like that the girl that messes us up is in my head. The girl that's got it dialed in now is in my heart.
Okay, well,
that's like the head space where, when you're in your head, you're dead. Like the judgment and the shame and all that kind of stuff that I was going through. That was all in my head, like under the hat.
Okay, but can we go about with like, it's in your, that old stuff is still kind of in your nervous system?
No, I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying, to me, it feels like, like when you and I would get in conversations in the past about the things that were going on in my relationships or whatever, that was me stuck in my head. That was not me knowing what I was worth, knowing what I was tolerating. That was all up here. But when I got to my heart space, that's when I was able to find what I really wanted.
Right. What you really wanted. And let me ask you this question though, too. Did you go about creating evidence to know in your heart? Because the next question is, well, how do you know in your heart? How do you get it in your heart, right? So did you go through a process of looking for evidence that you're pretty good in relationship, that you're a pretty loving person, that people do love you, that, for your kids, you're an amazing mom with your kids, that, so maybe when you were, 15, 16, early 20s, mid 30s, early 50s, when you were that young.
Whoa, slow down. Not there yet, pal.
But no, but when you were certainly in your teens and in your early 20s, I don't know, maybe you were always a chick on fire, but maybe you also felt really insecure and not good enough, and no,
I'll tell you what the thing for me was, and I went through this process I figured out through some of my coaching that in 2nd grade, there was a thing on the playground where I wore the same shirt as one of the girls that was one of my friends, and she told everybody not to play with me, but the boys didn't listen. So that day I learned that if the boys pay attention to me, then I'm okay. And so that was like a trigger point in me that as long as I was getting attention from boys,
right,
I'm good. So that was a driver for my self-esteem, for my worthiness. And that certainly, oh, my daughter's calling me. I'll call her later. But so that was one of the things that was really, a turning point for me, and a realization like this, that my worth and my being okay had to do with the attention that I was getting from the outside.
Which is a real slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, it took a really long time. I mean, I think that's what allowed me to tolerate, I think, some not so great situations in my life.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And then at some point, you realized, wait a minute, there's more to it there's more to life than this. There's more to relationships than this.
Mm-hmm.
And you had enough, and then you had references that you could have relationships that weren't just based upon the outside, that,
Mm-hmm.
You did have women that would stick up for you, and it wasn't just attention from men that you needed.
Mm-hmm.
So you then had a whole nother, like, I call it my evidence box, right? Because, I was teased mercilessly. Wow, that's a nice word. I was teased a bit in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it really, it carried with me through my 20s and into my 30s. And I had to then figure out, and what happened. So I'm like, okay, I'm not good enough was like my belief, right? There's something wrong with me and I'm not good enough. So, but then, and when people then would say, oh my God, you did a great job there, or that was really good, I would just swat that away, right? We swat away evidence. People want to give us evidence that we're good, that we are enough, that we are lovable, but because our original belief is that we're not good enough and we're not lovable, whenever anybody says that to us, we kind of swat it away. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And we're told, oh, don't accept compliments. Don't get a big head.
Yeah, you got to be modest and humble, and
you have to, right? You have to like, oh no, that's not true. You're just saying that. Come on. Mm-hmm. But that's also our mind then, and our consciousness saying, wow, here's an external reference that's in conflict with the belief I have about myself. So, and this is all unconscious. So what do I just deflect against that evidence that's in conflict with my belief and my identity, which is super strong. Mm-hmm. So, the trick is at some point you got to realize, and, the Dickens process is a great way of this. My identity doesn't really serve me, and it's not going to serve me, and I'm going to be in fucked up pain in 15 years and not have the life that I want if I continue to have this belief about myself.
So Laz, what is it? What do you feel like people need to be able to do? Like, once you have that awareness and that awakening, that the lie is not true. Like, how do you move through that and get out of your own way?
Right. You first sit down and you make a list of everything that that has happened in your life that is in conflict with your personal lie.
Okay.
Right? So has there ever been a time that I did something good and was given praise? Where do I shine? How do I shine? How does, right? Did mom ever say anything nice to me? Or did dad ever spend time with me? Mm-hmm. Did anybody make me feel important? Did anybody make me feel special? I mean, for myself, I was told by a dear friend of ours, who I'm not going to name, Connie Osterholt, that I remember it clear as a day. It was in 2008, and we were at a Life Mastery, and she said, said something on the microphone, and she said, Laz, you have a really good speaking voice. You could actually maybe even do voiceovers. And who's ever heard themselves on a answering machine and loved the sound of their voice, right?
Yeah.
Or God forbid, as a gay man, oh my God, I don't want to sound gay.
You're gay? What?
I came out.
Oh. You're not coming out on So What Now on TV?
I just came out on So What Now on TV in room 1273 at the Hilton, but that's a whole nother story. I
love you. It is not a show with Laz if it doesn't go there.
If it doesn't go there. So Connie said to me, oh my God, you have a really nice speaking voice. I'm like, are you kidding? No, I don't. And that's a perfect example of somebody saying something in conflict with what I believed about myself, and I instantly waved it away. I mean, but I have great respect for her. I'm like, really? And so I didn't go around asking people, because that's kind of weird. But whenever I heard it again, I took it on. And then eventually, now when I'm public speaking and I get nervous, because I don't know about you, but I don't. Most people get nervous public speaking.
I don't. I don't know why, but I don't.
You don't? No, you just leave a hat on your head for 15 minutes. But
we'll talk about that another time.
But now when I find myself tight like that, I just say to myself, no, I've been told that I have a nice sounding voice, and I'm going to run with that. And I just choose to believe that instead.
So you kind of make a list of your wins, like a list of your
wins. And when they come in, when you get your wins, don't blow them off. Take them in. I mean, I have the same thing with smile. Oh my God, you've got a great smile. You've got a great smile. Oh, no, I don't. No, I don't. Okay. I guess I'll believe them. I don't believe myself, but I'll believe them enough to the point that now I believe it for myself. And not in a conceited way, because it sounds like conceited, but I know that I can smile to somebody and put them at ease. And I can use that tool. There was a period of time when I looked like that wasn't it at all. That was a really bad one. But there was a time when I was 20 pounds lighter that I was told I looked like.
Was that your Zoolander? Was that your Blue Steel?
Yeah, no, that was my George Clooney.
Oh, that was the next thing I was going to say. Was that your George Clooney?
Yeah. I used to get Kiefer Sutherland. I'm much happier with George Clooney than Kiefer. But anyway, love you, Keith. And of course, I blew that off. And then I'm like, well, I've heard it enough. Maybe when people are looking at me at the airport or when I'm walking around and they're like kind of staring at me, which used to really make me uncomfortable, because why are they staring at me? There's something wrong. I must be hideously ugly. Now I'm like, I wonder what movie star they think I look like.
They think I'm fabulous.
They think I'm fabulous. Completely different experience of life. So, I don't, and it's not magic. I mean, we didn't take on our beliefs quickly. We didn't take on our beliefs easily, the bad ones. We looked for a lot of evidence, and we discounted things that didn't match up with what we were looking to prove. So it shouldn't be easy the other way. It's not easy to all of a sudden take on a new belief. It could be, but it's not going to be real. It's not going to last. It's not going to stick unless you continue to look for evidence and continue to build your evidence box.
Yeah.
So that was a really good job of stifling Leon.
Sorry.
So that so that
I'm not breathing. I need another sip of wine. Take a sip.
It's your own protection. It's your own, Wonder Woman bracelets. It's your own, right? It's like, fuck you. Don't tell me that's not true. I got all this evidence. I've got a whole thing of Lysol disinfectant wipes.
Oh, don't eat them. Don't suck on them.
Telling me, no, but can I take a shot of my alcohol? This is how we are in Colombia. This is the distilled alcohol that's strong, not too strong to drink, but not strong enough to
oh God,
to kill the old COVID. So that's my spiel on beliefs, how they get made, how it's not, it wasn't easy for us to take them on in the first place. We think it was easy. Oh, this happened with Susie and that's why I belong. No, yes, something happened with Susie, but then you also said, oh, it also happened here and here and here and here and here. So it became a really strong personal lie of what you believe to be true about yourself that's not.
You know what I find a lot when I'm talking to people, and many of the people that I'm talking to are very new to coaching or new to Tony Robbins and have just been exposed by videos or whatever. Right. And people have really don't see how their needs and their values are in conflict. And there are their rules and their needs.
It's the rule. It's not their needs and their values are in conflict. Their rules. It's the vehicles or the vehicles of how they get their needs met. That's the thing that's the really crazy part, that people don't want to hear, that this little self-pity party that you keep having for yourself is working for you. And it's working really well. It's meeting your needs really well at a super high level, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't even be doing it. So if you're like, why do I keep doing this thing or having these thoughts that don't work for me, and I know intellectually that they don't work for me, then look at what level do they work? What are you, are you getting connection with yourself? Feeling sorry for yourself? Are you getting your need for certainty, knowing that, oh my God, as soon as I go down this rabbit hole, I'm going to feel so shitty. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so, I'm going to know what, I'm going to feel something, right? Because you got to feel something. And I get it. If somebody's out there and they don't have anything that's lighting them up or making them feel good, then God bless you. I've been there, and it sucks, and it is hard. It really is super hard.
Well, you have to be willing to look for it, right? You have to be willing to not stay and argue. I find that people often are arguing for their limitations, and there's not one thing that drives me more crazy than when people just want to argue for the reasons that their life is like shitty. Well, the reason that your life is shitty is because you're defending the reasons your life is shitty.
Right. That, or you have in your mind this picture of how it's supposed to look.
And it doesn't look that way.
And if you've had this picture, I used to be a caterer, and I would have brides that came in with a fucking binder this big of the wedding, the perfect wedding that they have been planning since they were 15, and they won't give up on this vision that they've spent all this time looking for. They don't even really care about the relationship. All they care about is what this wedding is going to look like, and the colors and the this and the that, and the favorite. It was just like, I would see them and I pass them off to somebody else because I don't want to deal with that. This
your hair is fine.
Camera thing.
So if the 20-year-old version or the 29-year-old version of, if I could get a hold of the 29-year-old version of me today, that was more concerned with the wedding, than was with the person I was marrying at the time. Like not Joe, the one before that.
Yeah.
Like when my dad said, "Oh, honey, you don't have to do this." And I said, "Well, Dad, look at me. I have to, I'm fabulous right now. I have to walk down." Wow. Wow. The conjuring of the dream of a wedding that that we as little girls go through it's like that is the outcome. The wedding is the outcome, not the relationship. Not the marriage, not the lifetime commitment to someone, not the partnership, not the sacrifice, not the compromise, not the giving. It's the wedding. It's the wedding.
And you finally got it. You've got the chance to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Someone actually wanted me enough.
So many wedding stories. Okay, my really, really, really favorite, really quick wedding story.
Okay, buckle up. I need to pick this.
Okay, so this chick was drinking, I think before she got into the green room to start dressing. I don't know. But
they all are.
She was great. Everything seemed to be fine. The wedding was going along, and we got to the cake cutting, and they were from the South. I don't know if you're from the South, but in the South they have groom's cakes. I don't know if you've ever heard such a thing, right? So there's the wedding cake with all the tears, and then there's like, you know, some
the armadillo
chocolate bad, you know, the groom gets his fucking cupcake while the bride has her 7 tiers wedding cake. Okay, right. But it comes to the cutting the cake, and you could tell she was lit. And I was standing kind of to the back. I hope I wasn't in some of the pictures, but I was, you know, in the back off to the side because I got to cut the cake after they do the one thing. And you could tell she was just gunning for that slice of cake. She wanted to push that in his face, and not for fun, but for this, yeah. And he was like, honey, no, don't. And you could see other people like getting more and more like worried about where he's gonna go. So she said, fine. And she put the cake down, picked up the groom's cake, and threw the groom's cake into his face.
At the wedding. There's no way they're still married.
I loved your expression because everybody, like, I'm looking at the 100 guests, and everybody at the 100 guests were like,
there's no way they're still married.
And the mom does this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Hand over the face.
If it was a Southern wedding?
No, I mean, it was in San Diego, but there was a groom cake, so, you know, it had to be. So, yeah, that's somebody stepping into a wedding that's probably not going to last.
Yeah.
But in the picture, on the other side is that when it shows up, you got to accept it, you know? I mean, I've been married now for a year, less than a year, and I'm living in Colombia, and my husband is a decade or 2 or 3 younger than me. And oh my God, the grief that I gave friends of mine for dating younger men, I was like, I was not kind, you know, if not verbally, I was not kind to my heart. And
you were judgy Laz.
Judgy Laz. You've seen me be judgy Laz. But when it showed up, when the emotions showed up, when you know, me feeling really loved, when me feeling really like I'll do whatever for this person, for, you know, selfless, when, you know, it's just like, who am I to say no to what's showing up for me that met all of my needs and my vision for what it felt like. Mm-hmm. But the picturing of it wasn't what I expected. So, you know, your friends who are not happy are also holding on to a picture of something that maybe what they want to feel, what they want to experience is right there in front of them. I mean, with my clients, I see it a lot. You know, it's right there in front of them and they can't see it because it doesn't look the way that they think it's supposed to look like.
Well, you know, I think I've said many times on this.
If you drink enough wine, it's going to look like
nothing matters. I said on the show plenty of times, like when I was a young girl visioning my life and thinking about what my life was going to be, it certainly was not married twice, divorced twice, 2 kids with one, another with another, like 2 baby daddies in my late 40s, you know, single, trying to do it all. Like, this was not the plan.
I didn't sign up for this.
Well, you know, I didn't sign up for this, and I take responsibility for the reasons for my part of the reasons why I'm here. Yeah. And I wouldn't be sitting here in this chair having this conversation about so what, now what, if all of that shit didn't go down.
100%.
I would not be who I am. I would not be the partner that I am now, who cares more. Like, I'm in this relationship to give, not to get. And I think that is, it's not what I'm not always looking at what am I getting out of this? It's what am I giving? And then I think I have a partner who feels the same way, finally.
Yeah.
So, but I had to get to that point. I had to be in a place where it was not something I needed. It was something I wanted. So, yeah. I don't want to skip over one of the things that is really important that you're doing, and it's the breath work. And I want to understand it because you and I have never really talked about it, and I want to understand it.
Yeah. Okay. So in Aramaic, I'm going way back. Let's start at the beginning. In Aramaic, which is actually the language that the Hebrews and Jesus spoke. It's an old language. And in Aramaic, the word for breath is pneuma, like kind of like pneumonia. And the word for spirit is also pneuma. So the word for, in Aramaic, the word for breath and the word for spirit are the same word. And if you think about like so much of yoga practice involves the breath, involves using the breath to connect to the body, using pranayama, which is a yogic breath that is involved, I think of, I'm not a yoga person, but it's involved about bringing the spirit in. When you talk about prana or chi or any of so much of these ancient traditions, it's about using breath. And it's about using breath not only to bring calmness and peace and tranquility and an avoidance of trauma, and all of that still works. But ultimately, the breath is our access point to spirit. Is access point, and I went up, but it's also to spirit. It's about bringing the spirit within us. And there are so many different forms of breath work. I might have just talked about pranayama. In the yoga, the breath of fire. I can go on and on and on with the different types of breath work. What I studied is something called rebirthing, which is also like a connected breath, meaning that there's no space in the inhale or the exhale. Like if you think about how you breathe on a respirator, right? It's we're all familiar with that, right? And that's actually how we oftentimes breathe. We stop at the top and we stop at the bottom. Stop at the top, stop at the bottom. And so what I do with my clients is I get them to breathe in a manner that has no end. It has no top, it has no bottom. And what that does is it creates an alternate state of consciousness, and it kind of gets our mind out of the way and gets our heart and it's like the rotor-rooter for the soul. The breath goes in, and wherever you're holding in your body, because usually we hold emotions in our body. That's what PTSD is you've held an emotion of fear or whatever in your body, and it gets locked in. And so breath work, whether it be connected breath or whether it be, pranayama or whatever, it kind of tends to unlock that. And I've done a few videos on YouTube. Coaching with Laz is my YouTube channel if you want to look at some of those in more detail. But there's like, here's a perfect example of a super easy breath that you could do waiting in line to get in the grocery store. If you guys have to wait, we have to wait in line. But and it's just a 5 count in, 5 count out, 5 count in, 5 count out. Again, you see, there's no holding. There's no holding of the breath. And with what Patricia and her husband, I always forget his name, Rick, did was they went into like Haiti and the earthquake, and they did they're medical doctors, so they did a lot of research of actually how breath can not only heal trauma, but avoid trauma. And so the more present we can be with our breath, the more flow there is in our body.
So you do this for people that are trying to release some sort of pain or some sort of block?
Not just that 5 and 5 is really in the moment. It's not as therapeutic. It's therapeutic for the moment, but if somebody wants to release something in the past, then I would suggest that they get with a qualified rebirthing professional. Google it.
How do they get with you?
How do they get with me? Well, here's the interesting thing. So, thank you. What I'm doing right now over line, which was Laz Jefferson at Gmail, is a great way to get in touch with me. LazJefferson@gmail.com. I'm at this point, because I can't be with you physically, I can't be with my clients physically, and if I go for really deep and I help you and encourage you, guide you into a deep rebirthing session, Definitely stuff that might be hidden in the past or lurking in the past is going to come out. And I, to be a responsible rebirther, I want to be there with you in person in order to really work through that, to move the energy, to be able to support you physically. I've had technological problems of Zoom cutting out. I've had people who are trying to do it on their phone rather than their laptop, and their phone heats up and dies, and then you're just there on your own, and I can't do my work. What I've been, from a traumatic standpoint, what I've been doing online is I've really been guiding people in a much less, and not as forceful breath, and I've had really great success in bringing people to a place of bliss, a place of peacefulness, a place of clarity. What I've been hearing with the people I've been working with, not just, and their answers are not just during this COVID time, but they're like, never in my life have I felt so peaceful. Never in my life have I felt so at ease. Because never in their life have they just spent the 45 minutes to an hour of just breathing and being present with the breath and being present with whatever shows up, and my job as a breath worker is to maintain that rhythm. So when I see the holding at the top or the bottom, I'm just, hey, round out the corners, keep it going. And that's what I'm doing at this time. When we get out of this situation, there's so much available, and it's magical. Nowadays people are going for their plant medicine, and have you done ayahuasca? Have you been to Peru yet? On the canoe in the jungle.
Ayahuasca stuff scares me.
Right? I understand. I've done it. It's scary. I've done it, and I would do it again, and I'm still scared to do it again. But the closest thing that I found to ayahuasca is breath work.
Right.
And people and the whole, now that the Western, and if people want to do ayahuasca, they want to contact that from me. We have a great place here in Colombia, only 45 minutes outside of Medellin. You don't need to take a canoe into the middle of the Peruvian jungle. When I did ayahuasca, I was at a really upscale retreat center just outside of Hana. Hana, is that the one? Yeah, you drive to Hana.
Hawaii?
In Maui.
Maui, yep, I've been there.
So I was like, almost at the end of the road in Maui in this beautiful place. So, you don't need to be in a jungle and sign a waiver that they're going to put you in a straitjacket and send you
God.
Canoe to Quito if they can't deal with you.
Well, I think that you are so good with people and help them get to the truth of what's going on for them. So I really appreciate you being here. But I have to ask, because this is why we're here. Can you think of or share with everyone, what was a so what, now what moment for you in your life? Where you got to a place where you had to pivot, refocus, redirect, change, no longer tolerate.
Yeah, I can, it's interesting. I can tell you that one. And our dear friend, Lauren LaHave, was involved in this. She probably doesn't even know. I know she was yesterday, right? 2 days ago or something?
No, she was on Tuesday, last Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. So she probably, I know she remembers the time, but I don't know if she remembers the impact. So I was at Life Mastery, and we just done the 5 Rhythms dance. If anybody hasn't done 5 Rhythms dance, when we're out of here, just go. Many cities have it. We just done the 5 Rhythm dance at Life Mastery. And earlier in the day, I was going to come out to the group. There were 100 people at the program, maybe 60 at that point, I don't know. And I was going to come out because Relationship Day was going to come up. And this was in 2006. So it was a little bit different time than where we're at. And so I was in the morning shares. I raised my hand, and Lauren said, okay, you, and then picks me third. And then ended up I didn't get to share because 1 and 2 went so long. And so I was not a happy camper. And then I went through the 5 Rhythms dance, which is really a somatic experience of release using dance and rhythm. And then Lauren came up and I said, look, I've been pissed at you fucking all day because you called on me in the morning and then you didn't give me a chance to share. And and what the fuck, I was going to come out, and I had to deal with relationship issues here, and I'm, and I realized that at that time for me, life was still a process of coming out to everybody. If I'm on a plane, oh, you seem nice, you have a wife and kids, and
I'm gay.
And it was not quite the same. It was still, I still had some shame. It wasn't like, nowadays if I say I'm gay and someone says, oh, something's wrong with you, I can say, fuck you, everybody. What do you think of this asshole? Right? And they'll all agree. But this was, so and then the next day, Lauren's like, oh, Laz has something to share. And I'm like, no, I don't have anything to share. I'm fine. I'm over. Oh, no, you have something to share, And I'm like, no. And she's like, please. So I shared, okay, well, I'm gay. And then, of course, they played, I'm coming out.
Oh, gosh.
I'm like, no, I'm not coming out. I'm just saying this. But that was one of my so what now what's, is that I think I still, no, I don't think, I had shame. I still had shame around being gay, and I still had a belief that it was a process that I had to come out to people and all of that. And it was at that point, I remember like getting back on the plane, going back home, and thinking, so what? And if somebody like asked me, oh, do you have a wife? I'm like, are you fucking blind? Have we not been having a conversation? Like, right? And so, yeah, that was my so what, now what? And so what? I'm gay. Now what? I need to not have that define who I am. It's definitely a part of who I am, but it's not who I am.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of my so what, now what moments, I think, that sticks with me the longest. And
that's a pretty big one.
Yeah. So what? Now what? Let's move on.
Yeah. Moving next.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that we got to do this tonight. I think we dropped some awesome aha bombs and some good stuff on everyone. So I really, really appreciate you being here. I love you so much, and I wish you were closer. And hopefully the world goes back to normal and we get to see each other again soon. Because
hopefully the world changes in a way that we can be back together again in whatever form that is.
I mean, even if it's
the more we hold on to the more we hold on to normal, because I don't know. I think we're just.
It'll be a new normal. I just hope I get to squeeze you in December.
I know.
How about that?
Trying to be all heavy and smart and shit.
All right. Well, everybody, have a great night. Remember, any moment is a so what, now what moment. You can always refocus, reset, and move towards what you want. So have a great night. Laz, stay with me.